Welcome to this how to play video of Explorers of the North Sea. Explorers of the North Sea is the third game in a trilogy of games from Garfield Games and Shem Phillips, which is the third and last one, which concludes the trilogy. It's an exploration game, easy to access and easy to play, so let's go and have a quick look on the introduction and what the game is about. In Explorer of the North Sea, we're set in the latter years of the Viking Age, where as captains, we want to go out and explore, find new lands, settle them and control them. We will need to transport our crew to the newly discovered islands, and also we'll need to capture various livestock like pigs, chickens, goats, sheep, cattle and horses. Furthermore, we'll need to construct outposts and get other goals fulfilled in order to get additional victory points. So let's ready our longships and let's hit them to the sea so we can go and explore the seas, the North Seas. So what is the aim of the game? The aim of Explorers of the North Sea is to become a very prestigious and a very recognized captain. How we'll do that? We'll do it through our plans and through our navigation skills while we explore new lands. Players will get victory points by controlling islands, delivering livestock back to the homeland, raiding various settlements and constructing outposts in strategic places. Also, we want to destroy enemy ships to gain additional victory points. The game will end at the dawn of winter, when every player is going to count his victory points, and the player with the most victory points is going to be the winner of the game. So let's have a quick overview of the game components and what we get inside the box. We get two double-sided starting boards, you can see at the bottom of the screen. Also we get 26 livestock in 6 different types, which are on the top of the screen over here. Various livestock like pigs, sheep, chicken, goats, horses and cattle. We get 14 settlement tokens over here with different strength. We're going to explain through the rules later on what that does mean. Enemy ships, which are double-sided. This is the hidden side, and this is when you reveal what you get from the back. And then we have loads and loads of tiles that we're going to use to explore and add as we move from the motherland to the North Seas, and since we're explorers of the North Sea. And in addition we get a variety of different captain cards with different excellent iconography as usual. It's fantastic, the design from the trilogy, and also various special abilities and strengths and weaknesses for each captain that people will need to use for the benefit. Also, besides the special ability, we'll see a reminder of the actions and a reminder of the scoring, so everything fits nice in the personal board of the captain that you're playing in the game. Last but not least, what each player gets is his Viking longship, which is over here, very nicely done, very good quality actually. Some Vikings, that is our crew that we're going to throw on the North Sea exploration, and some settlements that we're going to try to install on different new lands that we explore. Let's go through a quick look of how the game is set up and how we're going to start playing the game. So to begin with, we take one of the starting board and place it either side face up. There are 2 starting boards included in the game, and they're double-sided for extra variety. It's a very good addition for starting the game. And what we do is we make piles of all the livestock, the settlement tokens and the enemy ships behind the starting board. Please make sure that you allow a lot of space on top of this section, so we're going to start exploring towards the up of the North Sea, so we can go left and right and maybe further down, but the main board we're going to expand towards the upper side of the starting tile. And then what we do is we shuffle all the captain cards. We have lots of captain cards in the game, as you can see. We shuffle them, and what we do is we deal 2 to each player, and then secretly each player, after they get 2, they're going to select one of them and they're going to discard the other one, so they're going to get 1 captain card in front of them. Last but not least, we get one of the components for the starting player, so let's have a quick look what we get here. Each player is going to get their longship, which is going to start, let's see, over here. There are 3 starting tiles to start exploring the game. And this is a personal stock of the player with all the components. So what they're going to do is they're going to start having all their Vikings here, or you can have it in front of you, doesn't matter. And then you start with your ship here and 2 Vikings on board. So you take those 2 Vikings and you put them on board like that. They fit very nicely. I'll quickly show you how nicely this looks. There you go. So you start from this base and you're ready to explore following the exploration of the North Seas. Last but not least, randomly we select a starting player, and then what we do is we give this marker to the player on the right. This is not actually a starting player marker, this is a marker that indicates the last player in the turn, anti-clockwise, and making sure that when we finish the game, each player is going to get the same number of sequence of turns, so until this player gets a turn too, and everyone has had the chance to play the same rounds in the game. This is a huge pile of tiles that we're going to use into the game for the exploration. You can see there are quite many. So what we do is we shuffle them, we make a pile like that, and we make sure that we deal 3 to each player, which is the starting hand that they're going to have to continue the game. The gameplay overview is the following. We start from the starting player, and then each player takes their turn in full. On a player's turn, what he or she does is, first of all, they select from their hand of 3 tiles 1 tile, they select it, and then they place it according to the rules that we're going to see later on. Then, after doing so, they may take up to 4 actions. We're going to go into detail with the actions later on. Once they have taken all the desired actions, they draw a new tile from the pile, so that they can always have 3 in their hand. This continues until the player holding the winter token has no tiles left in their hand. In the game, players will get to sail their Vikings among newly discovered islands. On their trips, they're gonna make outposts out on the new discovered land, they're gonna raid some settlements, destroy several enemy ships, and then fight for control of different islands for various points, victory points in the game. They can also capture livestock and deliver it back to their homeland in order to please the chieftain and gain additional victory points. Let's see how we place tiles, since we always start our turn by placing a tile and then following with the actions up to 4 actions as we discussed earlier. So before taking any actions, players must always place 1 tile from their hand and join it to the main exploration area of the map. The rules that they apply are the following. First of all, we select the tile that we want to put in, depending on our strategy, on the game board and expand it, and what we do, we select it and try to match it. Each side, as you can see here, matches each side of the adjacent hexagons. Here, this is an invalid position, because you see this one matches very nicely, but this is not matching as we want, because half of it has land and half of it has sea. Therefore, this is not a legal position. So let's see, this is the same, this would be the same. Again, what we can do is, for example, do this here. This is a legal placement, basically because the rules that they apply is that they must share at least 1 edge with either the starting board or any other tile. Starting board is this one, as a reminder, and all edges must match up to the surrounding tiles, land to land and sea to sea. The tiles can never directly join to the mainland. That means we cannot loop and connect to the mainland, this section of the game board. They can connect to the 3 starting hexes, which are at the top of the mainland. However, it is possible to get the tiles placed lower than the starting board if we go all the way down and then move further down the starting point. If a player cannot place a tile, which is extremely rare, they discard all their tiles, shuffle them back into the main supply, and they draw back an equal amount. Then they place a tile and continue their turn normally, as they would do before. When placing a tile, players will also need to place livestock, settlement tokens, or enemy ships on the specific tile, as the iconography depicts. Let's have a quick look of these 3 categories. For example, this one depicts some chickens. So what we do is, when we place it at the beginning of our turn, then we need to set 1 chicken on this space. Then, if another player later on puts this, they have to put 1 enemy ship face down, like that. And finally, when someone else later on, maybe they do this, they do this is a legal one, then there is a settlement here. So what we do is, from the pile of face down settlement strength tokens, it's various tokens in the game, randomly we select 1 and we make it face up, so that we can see now the strength of this settlement. So after finishing the first portion of our turn, which is placing a tile, as we've seen earlier, we move to the second portion of our turn, which is taking actions. As a reminder, each player will take up to 4 actions. and the selection from the actions are the following. They're also depicted on the personal captain board as a reminder, so players can always have a quick look and remember what are the possibilities from where they can choose. So the available actions are: we can load a longship, we can unload a longship, all these cost one action, and possibly when unloading a longship then we deliver livestock. As a third option, we can move the longship and possibly destroy an enemy ship in our way. As a fourth option, we can move Vikings and possibly raid a settlement. As a fifth option, we can transport livestock, various livestock with our boat and longship. And as a sixth option, we can construct an outpost. This is the only action that costs 2 action points instead of 1. 1 to 5, all the rest cost 1. The last one, the construction of an outpost, costs 2 action points out of the total 4 that we have available in our turn. Let's go have a better look on the different actions and how they work in more detail. As we've seen before, the first option would be to load a longship. Each player's longship may carry up to 3 Vikings or livestock, but they can never carry more than 2 livestock, meaning, as you would expect, there cannot be a longship handled by pigs. Some human Viking needs to be on board in order to navigate the ship, so it makes sense. So as an action, players may load any number of their Vikings or livestock onto their longship. When loading longships, the following rules apply. First of all loaded Vikings and livestock must come from the same located piece of land on the same tile, and then they are loaded on the longship. That means that I cannot use one action to load one Viking from this section and one Viking from this section to go onto the longship. They all need to be from the same portion of land. Also, the second rule that applies is that livestock cannot be loaded themselves onto a longship. They must be either moved along with at least one Viking or have at least one Viking present on land when they are being loaded. That means, for example, that this chicken cannot be loaded by itself on the longship. Obviously, we'll need to have at least one Viking present on land when it's being loaded. Or obviously they can be moved along with a Viking when it's being boarded again on the longship. The second possible action among the selected ones is unload a longship. As one action, players may unload any number of Vikings or livestock from the longship onto land. When unloading longships, similar following rules apply. What we mean is, for example, this longship comes here and it's about to unload onto the homeland. When unloading longships, what applies is that all Vikings and livestock must be unloaded onto one piece of land, whether it's a homeland or a different piece of island on the game board. And they should come from the same piece of land, like similarly it is done when loading. And secondly, livestock cannot unload themselves. That means that it cannot, one chicken cannot unload itself, for example. They must either be moved along with at least one Viking or have at least one Viking on board the longship when it's being unloaded. For example, this chicken could not unload itself unless there is one Viking following the chicken, or if there are Vikings on board that facilitate the unloading of the animal onto the destination of the player's choice. When players unload livestock to the mainland, they are immediately placed on the captain card. This is not an additional action that is required, it's automatically done. All these livestock delivered to the player's personal captain card are counted towards the end of the game for various victory points, as we'll see later on. Third option is to move a longship. Players will have to move their longships in order to get their Vikings and livestock among the different land locations and the islands. As one action point, players may move their longship to a connected sea space on an adjacent tile. The several rules that apply when we move a longship, these are the following. Our ships cannot sail themselves, so you need to have at least one player, one Viking on board, one Viking figure on your longship. Makes sense. Also, they cannot cross land, their ships. They're not land transportation vehicles, so we need to move through sea-connected tiles, as you would expect. Also, there are not limits on how many longships can be on the same tile. For example, we can have peacefully 2 different longships on the same tile. No battle happens, there is no problem. We can have 2 or even more. Also, longship with less than 2 Vikings cannot move into a sea space containing an enemy ship. For example, we see those spaces here, so for one action point I can do 1, 2, but if I had only one Viking, not 2, I wouldn't be able to get my third action movement point into here, where is an enemy ship waiting, because I had only one. I need to have at least 2 Vikings on board when I move here, because I'm going to face the enemy ship. Then there is the possibility of destroying an enemy ship. When players enter one of these tiles with one of those enemy ships, as a reminder, when we explore a tile and there is this iconography here, we get one face down token of enemy ships and put it here. We don't know what's beneath. So when players destroy an enemy ship, simply when they get with at least 2 Vikings in one area which contains 1 token, they explore it because they have come close and they can see that. So what they do, they have 2 possibilities. We can have, let's see, the different types of possibilities. We can have either this result or this result. We have 2 different results. So let me zoom in a bit for you so you can see better the 2 different results. They would be this one and that one. Okay, so depending on the different result, different things happen. For example, this was a ferocious battle, so if we get this result, no Vikings die, no problem. We continue with our 2 Vikings on board and we explore and we keep this token because it will give us additional victory points at the end. If there's this result, that means that 1 Viking dies. This was a very first battle, so 1 Viking dies and goes out of the gameplay and goes onto the player board of the captain card. It will score additional points for Fame and Valkyrie later on. So this is what happens when people cross sea tiles which contain enemy ship tokens. The fourth possible action that a player can take is to move Vikings. At times Vikings will need to leave their longship and travel by land. Maybe they raid a nearby settlement or capture some livestock. As one action point, players may move 1 or 2 Vikings from one land space to a connected land space on the adjacent tile. So for example, if I had already used one action to come here to unload those Vikings, I can use one action to move 1 or 2 Vikings from one connected land space to an adjacent one. So for an additional action point, these 2 Vikings can move from this section to this section or to this section. I cannot use one action point and move 1 here and 1 there. I can only do from one land space to another one space, adjacent land space connected, to move 1 or 2 Viking figures when doing so. Again, some simple rules apply. For example, Vikings cannot swim across sea spaces, makes sense. They must be moved into connected land spaces, and also there is no limit in how many Vikings of any color can be present on a specific section of the board. So we can have, for example, 2 yellow and 1 blue. There is a possibility when moving Vikings to be able to raid a settlement, which is not an additional action cost for this, it just happens. Some tiles contain settlements. For example, this tile, as we can see here. When drawn, a settlement token is placed on it, as we've seen at the setup, so this one was drawn randomly and it's a strength of 3. To successfully raid a settlement, players will need to move an equal or higher number of their Vikings onto the settlement. A settlement with a military strength of 3, for example, will need to have at least 3 Vikings present in order to be able to raid it and conquer it. So we would need to have at least 1 more. So we'd have 3 Vikings present on the settlement section, and settlements are immediately raided once there are enough Vikings of the current player present. This does not require any additional actions. Then the players will take this marker, which is additional victory points for the end, and they will place it on their personal captain card, face down, so that other players will not remember the strength of the victory points that are already accumulating from several raids that are happening from their turn. The 6th possible action a player can have is transport livestock. Usually players will need to transport livestock across land before loading them onto their longship. So as one action, they would be able to transport 1 livestock with 1 Viking from one land space to a connected land space on an adjacent tile. So again, when transporting livestock animals, the same following rules apply. The livestock cannot move themselves, they must be accompanied by a single Viking. Livestock cannot swim across sea spaces, they must be moved by connected land space. There is no limit of how many livestock of any type may be present on the same tile, no conflict there. And finally, all animals can be moved by any player. However, Players cannot steal livestock from opponents' longships. As long as a livestock is on land, it is free for all. When it is moved on a longship, then it is captured by that player and they cannot be stolen from that player, as we've seen. So for one action, we can move it here, from this space to that space, getting closer to our longship and following turns delivering it to our homeland. The last possibility as an action selection from the players is to construct an outpost. As a reminder, please don't forget that this costs 2 actions instead of 1 for all the rest that we have discussed so far. So at the game ends, players will score victory points for each completed, that means completely surrounded by sea, island they control. The most effective way to control islands is by constructing outposts, because they add additional strength to your control. So scored islands will be explained later on, but let's see how the outpost construction works. When constructing an outpost, the following rules apply. Each tile can only be connected to one outpost of any player color. Players must have at least 2 Vikings present on land immediately surrounding the outpost location, and these Vikings cannot have can be on any of the 3 connected tiles, even 2 of the same tile, so they can be here or here, for example, in order to construct an outpost at the intersection, which would be over here. That's what we're trying to do. All 3 tiles must be placed before an outpost can be constructed, so we cannot construct an outpost like that if there was not connected already. So we need to have the 3 joining in the center. And finally, players are limited to constructing just 5 outposts, which comes from the personal stock. Once they are built, they cannot be either moved or removed from the game. Each constructed outpost scores players an increasing amount of victory points at the game's end. 2 victory points for the first, 3 for the second, 4 for the third, and so on. We'll check this later how the scoring works. Also, they contribute to the control of the island at the game end. And this is important because they enlarge their control strength, their presence, and they get the ability to be able to get the additional victory points from the islands, the completed islands that they control at the end. At the end of the current player's turn, they will get to draw 1 more tile, so they can always have 3 at their hand, and the next player will take his full turn, and the game will continue likewise. Till there will be no tiles left in the game. The game ends immediately after the turn where the player holding the winter token has no more tiles left in their hand. This would happen exactly 48 turns after the beginning of the game. Once the last player has taken their turn, the game is over and scoring phase proceeds. Players should use the scorecard that comes with the game. As you can see here, it's this one, to keep a track of the score victory points acquired from the different groups that they give victory points to the game. So the captain's card, as we've seen at the beginning of the game, has a special ability, a fantastic iconography, the selection of the actions possible, and on the left you can see the scoring, which is very useful because, as a reminder, during the game you always have an overview of what would score you victory points at the end of the game. In brief, there are 7 areas that needs to be considered. First of all, delivered livestock. Second, constructed outposts. Third, destroyed enemy ships. Fourth, raided settlements. 5, Vikings died into the battle, glorious battle. The 6th is the control islands from players, and the 7th is the special captain cards, which provide additional victory points depending on the captain you have in front of you. So let's quickly have a quick look of a quick overview of how the scoring works. For example, for scoring, people get from delivered livestock 1, 3, 6, 10, 15 or 21 victory points for different livestock figures delivered onto the captain card. So you can see in the rulebook there is this nice depiction of the different cases. For example, if you deliver only 1, you get 1 victory point. If you deliver all the different 6 types, 1 from each one, you get 1 set of 61 points for this set, which is quite a lot. Also, the constructed outpost. Players will score increasing amount of victory points depending on the outpost they construct. The first one is 2 victory points, the second is 3 victory points, the third is 4th, and so on. Again, the rulebook has a nice depiction of the different victory points from the second, the third, and etc. outposts that you construct as an individual, and as a total amount of victory points that they provide you, up to a total of 20 victory points. Again, on the description, on the scoring on the captain card. Furthermore, you get additional victory points from destroyed enemy ships. Each player scores 1 victory point for each enemy ship they have destroyed in the game. That's why we keep those when we destroy them in the course of the game. Raided settlements. Players will get additional victory points for when they reveal the strength of the victory points from all these tokens of the settlements they raided within the game. So they add these ones to their total score, which gives them additional victory points. Vikings died in battle give you additional victory points. For example, during battles with enemy ships, there's a possibility that you have some of your crew dying into glorious battles. Then the first one gives 1 victory point, the second one, Viking dead due to attack on enemy ships, gives you 4, 9, 16 and 25, up to a total of 36 victory points. So you see that most of the things give you victory points in this game. So the last thing that needs to be considered is the controlled islands. Players score additional victory points for each island they control. Please remember that completed islands score victory points, meaning islands surrounded by water. This is a completed island example. Control is determined by players' influence on the island. Each influence is calculated. For one Viking figure we get 1 influence point. For each outpost we get 2 influence points. So for example, in this case, yellow has 1, 2, 3, 4 influence points. Red has 3 and green has 1. Therefore the influence for the control of this island goes to the yellow player. The yellow player will get victory points for controlling this island. 1 victory point tile, 1 victory point for each tile the island covers, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 victory points because yellow controls this island from his influence. In case of a tie, all tied players score the island in full. The last thing that provides victory points to the players' total sum is the captain cards. During a setup, if you remember, each player was dealt a captain card which had a special victory point ability at the bottom of the card. We can see here, for example, that this captain, this hero, gains 2 additional victory points for every set of 1 outpost, 1 settlement and 1 enemy ship you score. That means for each settlement, for each outpost, for each settlement and for each enemy ship, this is 3, we get 1 victory, 2 additional victory points added. The various captains have different victory and game conditions. For example, the watchman gains 1 additional victory point for each outpost you construct. Or this guy here, they get 1 victory point every complete island you do not control, where you have 1 or more Vikings present. This is explorer, the scout, sorry. And one last example is the Shield Maiden, which gains 1 additional victory point for each island you control. So there's a bit of a lot of selection for different additional victory points because we get a lot of captain cards and they add another means of gathering extra victory points. The game also provides an option for solo gaming, which is a welcome addition. Always it's a welcome addition when you also have the possibility to play solo gaming, which is also good. And this is another aspect of the game, playing it solo or playing it with different players, which adds additional value. So this concludes our how to play video, the rules of the Explorers of the North Sea. As a short debriefing, what we thought of the game is it's a very simple and very easy to teach game to newcomers. Also experienced players would certainly enjoy it. It lasts fairly quick, so you can easily play it back to back a second session or third session. It has an endless ability of gathering victory points from lots and lots of things. So many things I haven't seen in a game that simple, giving you so many options of gathering victory points from various different aspects of the game, from set collection, from gathering animals, from getting outposts, from special abilities, from exploring, from. So you get so many possibilities of sourcing victory points through the game, which makes it very unique. It gives a tremendous replayability. Also the different, the modular board is already on its own it gives a tremendous replayability in the game, but also the different way that the people can focus at some session on gathering special portion of the victory points from animals or from exploring on controlling islands, etc. Very, very nicely done. Excellent production as usual from Garfield Games. We didn't expect anything less. We played already several sessions and we enjoyed with different types of gamers, so it is a plus for the game. It lasts really, really quick, so you can easily set it up and explain it along the way. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and we get you to be interested in another amazing game from Garfield Games. So without further ado, let's go and have one session and play again Explorers of the North Sea.